I was just always somebody that always put a brave face on. Hardly anybody knew what was really going on in my head at the time of like when I was nearly coming to my rock bottom. Hi, welcome back. This episode, I'm going to be speaking about how I handle cravings and how I handle difficult days. I'm going to try and use life examples and how I handled those situations. So in recovery, one thing that everybody thinks that's going to happen is your life is going to get incredibly amazing. Yes, that happens to the point where obviously you're not using, you're not in that cycle, you're not having that mental obsession, etc. But life still happens and we have to deal with life on life's terms. So for instance, when we say life on life terms, like life is just carrying on, because life doesn't just stop just because you got in recovery. Like you're going to experience heartbreak if you break up with somebody, you're going to experience family issues, you're going to experience financial issues, friendship issues, work issues, just the stresses of everyday life, whatever your circumstances are. So in recovery, and that's why the 12 steps for me are so vital, because my solution was for anything was to use, whether I was happy, sad, angry, whatever it may be, my solution was to use drugs. And obviously my last drug was ketamine, and that was my solution for anything and everything. Whereas now, obviously I don't use drugs, or I don't drink or anything like that. So I have to work out a way of like how I'm going to handle these situations. And that is just by applying the steps and applying the tools that I know, which is to go to a meeting, to open up and share. Because for me, in my past, like I was just always somebody that always put a brave face on. Hardly anybody knew what was really going on in my head at the time of like when I was nearly coming to my rock bottom. Like people could tell that I was using heavily and stuff like that, but I hid so much from it because I always had a smile on my face. I always was like the life and soul of the party. Like I always made sure that I had a job. So from the outside, I always looked like I had everything going on, because I wasn't honest with anybody of how down I was, how mentally unwell I was, how stressed I was with my finances, how much in debt I was. Like I wasn't honest to anybody, because I felt like the way I used to act was, I will be able to handle it. I can do this. I will be able to be in control of everything. And it's just a control defect that I have that I really have to work on. And one of them is like, I have to let people know what's going on with me. And I am very like aware now when things aren't right, or things just aren't adding up anymore in my head, and I'm acting in certain defects or anything like that. I'll open up to, say, my partner or my mum or somebody in recovery, like my best friend. I'll speak to my other best friend who's outside of recovery as well. Like I'll just make sure, like I really will practice that tool and speak to people, because me not speaking to people and me not opening up and me not being honest of where I was got me into that situation, because it was just constant trying to be this thing that I just wasn't, and trying to live up to these expectations in my head of myself. And by doing that, I nearly broke me. Do you know what I mean? So now one of my biggest tools that I would advise anybody is to really just be honest of where you're at. Let people know that you may be struggling. Let people know that you are craving. People know that you're not in a good place mentally, like, so people are aware. Not to like, and it's not a case of like you're showing weakness. Like I always saw myself being like down and feeling like I wasn't in control, like as a weakness, and it's not a weakness at all. Like there's some days now, like I wish I spoke sooner and I may have been able to get things under wraps, do you know what I mean, instead of hiding everything. But I can't look at the past, I can only look at now. So yeah, so my biggest thing definitely is to really speak up, let people know where you're at, and it's not a sign of weakness to do that, and it's not a sign of weakness to let people know you're struggling at all, like at all. So please let people know where you're at, and please let people know if you need help or anything like that. Like, I wish I'd done that sooner. So yeah. And then also with that, actually, I just want to put that out there, is some people on here may be working and they're afraid that they'll be fired. They'll be afraid that the head will be telling them, oh, they can't say anything because it's going to ruin their career, it's going to do this, whatever it may be, or your family may not speak to you and stuff like that. Like, when I actually came out and told my mum and my brother, like, my situation was, they took me to my meetings. They made sure I got to my meetings, and at the beginning there was no trust there. I had to get dropped off at the meeting and picked up at from the meetings. But for my part, I had to accept that. I had to accept that I have to be treated like a bit of a child at that stage in my life, because I'd broken their trust so much with the lying, and they're like, obviously this sneaking around, the drug taking in my room and stuff like that. So like, I really had to build on that trust, and yeah, I had to just accept where I was in my life. But it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like, I was so scared that I'd be kicked out. I was so scared that I'd be like just left. I catastrophized so much, and I didn't need to, because the bottom line, like with my family, like thankfully I hadn't got to the stage where I had completely broken every bit of relationship. So they really helped me, but I got that help by also abiding by their rules as well, you know what I mean? So it was a bit of like a give and take. Another thing as well, like my dad, like, and I've forgiven him and everything like that, but at the beginning he just did not know how to handle this. And culturally, in the Islamic world, mental health, drug addiction, anything around these taboo subjects is literally so taboo. So he didn't know how to handle it. So I didn't speak to him for months when I first told him, and that was really, really tough. And those times I was early recovery, and I fucking wanted to just go fuck off, I'm using, do you know what I mean? But thankfully I implemented the tools that I knew, which was just to go to meetings and share on it. And I shared all the time over it. And I constantly went to meetings, and I constantly like surrounded myself with my fellow addicts, because I was really vulnerable at that point, because my dad is my everything, do you know what I mean? I do put him on a pedestal, so it did really, really affect me. So that was a very, very difficult time. But my advice is what I know, which is I went to meetings, I shared in the meetings, I made sure it wasn't in my head, because when it's in my head, I catastrophize and I make it worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, to the point where it's like my addict brain and that addict voice just starts using so much more better, so much more. It sounds so much nicer for me to just silence everything and just fuck everything off. It's so much easier to do that than to deal with those emotions. So yeah, I don't know whether I've gone on an absolute tangent then, but I think when it comes to cravings and difficult times and just life in general in recovery, it is to talk about it. Don't let it stay in your head. When you're having cravings, like I'm 3 years and 8 months now, and I still get cravings. I still sometimes wish that I could just go back in time and just never enter the rooms and just get everything into control, and maybe try different try different avenues or different routes instead of just completely going abstinence. Like, I do think that, I 100% do think that. I think for somebody to get clean in their early 30s or early 20s, like, I think it's so normal to think like that. We think we've got our whole lives. We think, like, I personally think, like, oh, did I get sober too young? Do you know what I mean? But I speak up about these things with my partner or with my friends or at a meeting. And I really do get reminded very quickly of where I was, because I never want to go back to where I was suicidal, where I was in so much debt. I was fucking underwater. Do you know what I mean? I was 6 stone. I was pissing blood. Like, that is not where I want to go. And I have to remind myself that is where I will end up, because when I use, I do not just have a drink. I don't just have a little like bump here and there. I get fucked up. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I need to remind myself of that and get that bit of a reality check. But the only way for me to get that bit of reality check is by opening up to somebody or sharing what's going on in my head. So yeah, I think my biggest thing for this is just sharing, opening up, getting that stuff out of your head. I think so many of us, when we are in addiction, we are so alone with those thoughts and so alone with, we isolate ourselves. We don't tell people we're in this little, like, constantly sneaking around, lying, etc. That it's just us that knows, us and our addict brain that knows. So you need to do the opposite of what you did in your addiction. And the first one for me was just being honest. Yeah, just being honest about where I'm at and surround myself with people that understand and get it. And I think that's why I love the room so much, because I love my mates outside of the rooms, absolutely love them. But if you're not an addict, or if you don't have that mentality where your solution is to drink or to take drugs or anything, they're just not going to get it. They're just not going to get why you want to press the fuck it button, why you think it's a good idea to press the fuck it button. Do you know what I mean? So being around fellow addicts and them understanding why you're feeling that pain. And I do believe, like, we feel differently. I do believe, like, I feel so deeply, and I think I overthink so much, like, and I think that is across, like, all addicts. We are all such overthinkers. We feel things more so than other people, hence why we chose substances to shut everything off. So when you're speaking about a situation that may not be that big of a deal to that I class the norms, but addicts understand, and that's why I love going to the meetings and sharing. So yeah, whenever I'm going through difficult times, whenever I've gone through, like, in recovery, for me, in recovery, I've gone through a breakup. I've gone through my dad not speaking to me. I've gone through my friends' deaths. I've seen people that I've got really close to in the rooms die. Had a really intense moment in my work where I thought I was going to get fired because my defects proper were acting out. I've learned a lot about myself that was really difficult. I'm going to therapy. I've confronted a lot of stuff that happened in my past that a lot of people wouldn't be able to handle. Like, it's a lot, but the way I've dealt with all of them is just it's as simple as just being open and honest and speaking about it to people that you trust, and not letting it sit in your head and not having that power over you. Practicing my steps around them all, and yeah, going to meetings, just practicing my steps. Like, it's practicing steps one, like literally 1 to 12, help me in everything, as I've spoken to you in other episodes. So yeah, it's pretty simple, but when you're in the situation and when you're actually living in that situation, it is difficult. So I get it. So yeah, I hope that helps.